It's the amazing Rico Brogna podcast with your host, Evan Roberts.
Rico! Brogna! It is a walk-off, I tell you, edition of Rico Brogna as I'm driving home from Citi Field in some jam-packed traffic, leaving the parking lot. The reason I'm in traffic is because I smelled the roses tonight. Instead of rushing out of Citi Field like I normally do after a win or a loss, after Francisco Alvarez pimped the crap out of that home run and eventually touched home plate, and the New York Mets escaped with a 4-3 victory over the Baltimore Orioles, instead of rushing out of there, I enjoyed the moment. I let it all sink in that walk-off home runs are special. I let it all sink in that we had witnessed the New York Mets escape from what could have been. I get it. My car is beeping because a car is close to me. I know a car is close to me. I can see it. Sometimes these security features that cars have can be very annoying. I don't know if you can hear that beeping sound, but it's like loud. I know. There's a car right in front of me. It's okay. Anyhow, I wanted to enjoy every moment of this because walk-offs are special. Walk-off home runs are special. Walk-offs from guys that haven't done it yet, and hopefully will have many over the course of their major league career. That is special too. And so I enjoyed walking out of Citi Field very slowly with loud "Let's Go Mets" chants. There were an occasional Yankee suck chant, which I didn't really want to inform people, those Yankee suck chanters, that the New York Mets did some Yankee work tonight. Not that we give a crap about that. But then again, why do we care about the Yankees to where we're chanting "Yankee suck" leaving Citi Field? I have no idea. But this game was beautiful and ugly all at the same time. What I mean by that is it was beautiful to watch Francisco Alvarez hit a game-winning home run. It was beautiful to see Tyrone Taylor come through with a clutch RBI single early in the game. It was beautiful to see J.D. Martinez hit an oppo bomb in the first inning of this game. And I thought it was mostly beautiful to watch David Peterson pitch, a guy who, I admit, even on a night in which he commits the balk, gives up the game-tying home run, really kicks us all in the balls. Tonight was the night, and you can mark this down for me. I don't know how you guys feel. Tonight was the night where I've got no other choice but to believe in David Peterson. David Peterson went out there, and he was efficient, and he faced a good Orioles lineup, a solid Orioles lineup, a team that scores 5 runs per game, and for the most part, carved them up. Obviously, the mistakes late we'll get to, but David Peterson has been one of those guys where it takes us a while to trust him. He had a lot of failures over the last 4 years watching him pitch, where why would we ever come around to trusting him? I can't tell you how many times we've even said it on the Rico. Yeah, I'm just waiting for David Peterson to turn into the pumpkin that we've all seen. But unlike Tyler McGillen, maybe it's because he's a lefty, maybe because he had magical hip surgery that somehow fixed him. But David Peterson has been, pound for pound, the most consistent Mets starting pitcher since he's returned to this team in June. That's the truth. I mean, you can look at anybody you want, even Sean Manaea, as well as he's pitched. When you're just looking for flat-out consistency, I'd argue David Peterson has been that. And what he did today, until the 7th inning, I admit, was masterful. It was another really good performance by Peterson. So you tell me, I'm being honest with you. August 19th, 2024 was the day I said, wow, we may have something in David Peterson. He may be one of those lefties that just took a long time to develop, and we needed to be patient, the way we needed to be patient with Mark Vientos. Not that that's the same, but you know what I mean. Patience sometimes is a virtue. Now, let me get to the 7th inning, because I've been very critical of Carlos Mendoza over the last couple of days, over the last couple of Ricos, his handling of Jose Butto, his handling of Edwin Diaz the other night. I actually was lockstep with Carlos Mendoza in terms of how he managed this game. I am finally out of the parking lot here at Citi Field, so that is a very, very good feeling. It wasn't that bad. A lot of cars, but honestly, getting to smell the roses, as the saying goes, was worth an extra 5 minutes of traffic inside of Citi Field, especially when I'm doing a drive home Rico. Who gives a crap how long it takes for me to get home? By the way, one idea, and I need this approved by the Mets, going to have a conversation with them. The drive home Ricos may become I'm at Citi Field, Rico's. I may end up staying at Citi Field, maybe in my seat, and just doing the Rico Brogna after a game from my seat, as opposed to the awkward driving thing. So we're working on that. That may be in store through September. But anyhow, I want to get to the seventh inning because as critical as I've been of Carlos Mendoza's managing and the way he's handled Budo and the way he's handled Edwin Diaz, I thought he could have used him on yesterday. I was actually in agreement with challenging David Peterson the way he did. David Peterson's pitch count was, I think, about 86 after the sixth inning. And I loved that Mendy allowed him to start the seventh inning with a 2-run lead. It was 3-1. The run that they got was a cheap run. It was a mistake by David Peterson and Francisco Lindor when they tried to pick a runner off second, which up 3-0, fifth inning, I think it was. I don't think it was necessary. And the Orioles end up getting the run unearned on an RBI ground out. So I thought that was a little bit of a miscue, being overly aggressive, trying to pick a runner off. Maybe the Mets got cocky from everything they did over the weekend, in which they had the 3 pickoffs in one game. Paul Blackburn had 2 on Sunday, and then they tacked on another one with Reed Garrett. But when Peterson gave up the leadoff double and he had Jose Budo warming up, I still felt, you know what? Let's see if David Peterson can get through this. You know, you have a 2-run lead, so you have the tying runs at the plate. But my thought was, as soon as the tying run gets on base, that's when I'd make the call. I love Jose Budo. I'm glad he's available for a close game. But I wanted to reward and challenge David Peterson in the seventh inning of this game. And Mendy did everything I wanted him to do, even if it didn't work out. Peterson gets the ground out, gets the second out. I think it was a strikeout. So it looks like he's got a chance to get through the seventh inning with a 3-1 lead. And then, and here's where things get dicey, he commits the balk. I didn't see the balk. All I saw was David Peterson throw a strike, and then the umpires dramatically signaling. I was hoping it was just going to be a pitch clock violation. But the balk was a killer, not because 3-1 and 3-2 is the difference in the game, but it's a killer because it clearly got to David Peterson. And that'd be my only critique. Like, when he commits that balk, and I'm trying to rack my brain on if the Mets had used any kind of mound visit in that seventh inning prior to that. Because if they didn't, and I don't think they did, my memory doesn't tell me Jeremy Hefner ever went out there, I would have used a mound visit right then and there. I would have had Carlos Mendoza go out there, Francisco Alvarez go out there, and calm him down, because Peterson clearly looked bothered by committing the balk. He did not want to allow that. He did not want to allow that second run to score. He had just worked so hard to get those 2 outs, including the big strikeout, for there to be 2 outs and a runner on third. And so my only, I guess, critique would be go out there and calm him down, because then, unfortunately, on the next effing pitch, he gives up a game-tying home run to Ramon Urias. He actually let Peterson get through the inning, finish off the job, because there was a lefty at the plate. I forget who. And so it was a disappointing end to what was a really brilliant performance by David Peterson, in which a couple of just minor miscues really did him in. Trying to pick off a runner at second and throwing it off of Lindor's glove. I thought Lindor could have made the play, but, you know, whatever. Still, Peterson made a non-perfect throw. And then, obviously, the balk, which not only allows the run to score, but clearly led to Peterson being rattled a little bit and giving up the game-tying home run to Ramon Urias. But overall, and I haven't checked the Rico email, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of criticisms. What are you doing? He's not going to Budo. Look, I love the fact that he was giving David Peterson that opportunity. He was giving him that chance. He was saying, look, Petey, he's pitched a hell of a game. Get these last 2 outs, or get these last 3 outs after he gave up the leadoff double. So I got no issue with Mendy as far as Peterson's concerned. He goes to Jose Budo in the 8th inning. Budo, again, does a great job. Typical Budo. He issues a walk, but dances through the trouble against some good Oriole hitters. Now, as far as, because I do want to get to this, in the 9th inning of a tie game, because the Met bats went completely limp against the Oriole bullpen, I was debating, do you have Budo come out and pitch the 9th inning? You know, the beauty of Jose Budo is he's not a one-inning reliever. Here's the way I'd answer this, and I don't think we're going to get the answer until Tuesday night. If you are now comfortable pitching Jose Budo in back-to-back days, because he only threw 1 inning, he did not exert himself like you're trying to stretch him out. He threw 1 inning. If you now feel he's ready to be a reliever who can pitch back-to-back days, then managing for the 162 and managing for the remainder of this series, I have no problem pulling Budo after the 8th inning. But if Budo is not going to be available in game 2 of this series, then why not have him pitch a 2nd inning and pitch the 9th inning? Because what that allows you to do is maximize the time that your best relievers are on the mound. We talked about how the Mets didn't have their best relievers on the mound in game 3 against Oakland and game 3 against Miami. We didn't see Edwin Diaz. We didn't see Jose Budo. Now you're fortunate enough, and you've managed, I guess, correctly enough to where Budo and Diaz are fresh as daisies. You get a scoreless out of Budo. You know Diaz is available, and so I'm going to use him eventually, but I also know there's a 10th inning looming if my bats can't wake up. And God knows the Met bats made the Oriole bullpen look like it was the freaking nasty boys in their prime. There were 11 outs recorded at one point by the Oriole bullpen, and 9 of them were on strikeouts. It may have actually grown after Jesse Winker pinch hit for some reason and struck out to start the 9th inning before Alvarez hit the home run. So it may have been 10 of 13 or 10 of 12, if I'm not mistaken, in which Met bats struck out against Oriole relievers. So I'm thinking long game. If Budo can pitch the 9th and get me through that 9th inning, now I've got Diaz for the runner on second situation that presents itself in the 10th inning. Because I got a news flash for everybody listening. And I saw this being at the game. If the Mets didn't score in the bottom of the 9th inning, despite how economical Edwin Diaz was in the 9th inning, he was not coming out for the 10th inning. And I know we all would have lost our mind about it. What are you doing? Because there's no one else in that bullpen this team can trust. And I'll tell you who was warming up. I'm not sure if they showed it on the broadcast, if I'm breaking news or not. But the guy that was warming up was Ryan Stanek. So think about this. If the Mets did not score in the bottom of the 9th inning, Diaz would have been out after 1. Budo would have been out after 1. Great. They gave you 6 outs. Fantastic. Let's have a party. And then Ryan Stanek would have come in with a runner on second and nobody out, with the Manfred man on second in the 10th inning. And so luckily, by the grace of God, Francisco Alvarez hits the home run. But that was the situation that was presenting itself, which is why, thinking about that and knowing it's unlikely that Mendy's going to ask Edwin Diaz to pitch 2 innings, especially with no off day surrounding. And I think you had a better chance if there was an off day coming up, let's say on Thursday. Instead, there is no off day. I mean, the Mets are going back on the road. They're going to San Diego. So I did think, and it's a first guess, it's not end of the world stuff, but I was thinking, do you try to squeeze a 2nd inning out of Budo? I don't have an issue with it as long as if Budo is available to pitch in game 2 of this series. Because what Carlos Mendoza has to now realize is the Mets have 2 reliable relievers. That's it. Card subject to change. Maybe Dednil Nunez comes back and he can re-enter the circle of trust. But for me, when you spend a month on the injured list, you're out of the circle of trust. Like, I can't expect that Dednil Nunez is going to come back and pick up where he left off. I hope he does. He could be maybe 1 or 2 performances before me as a Met fan says, okay, he's back in the circle. But right now you've got 2 relievers you can trust. You've got Jose Budo and you've got Edwin Diaz. And you've got to manage around having those guys available and maximizing when they can pitch and how often they can pitch. So what I am hoping for is that in game 2 of this series on Tuesday night at Citi Field, with the Mets having a chance to win a series against a quality opponent, the Baltimore Orioles, Jose Budo is available. That's my hope. Otherwise, I would have squeezed out a 2nd inning out of him and managing the long game, because the Met bats, and this will go kind of not talked about because they won. I mean, the Met bats, after JD's home run early and Tyrone Taylor had the RBI single, was as limp and dead as you'll ever see him. And this was against the Oriole bullpen. This was against, I forget the first guy who came in, Colin, name slips my brain. Then you've got Keegan Aiken, the lefty, who came in and pitched 2 amazing innings. But the Mets were swinging and missing. You had Pete Alonso taking pitches that I thought were right down the middle. I know he was bitching about it. He wasn't happy about the calls. To me, you got the count 3-0, Pete. Be aggressive. Try to get a fat fastball, hit the crap out of it, and hit a home run. Try to be a hero. Have that Pete Alonso moment. Instead, I don't know what he was doing. I think he was looking for a walk in that whole sequence against Keegan Aiken. But the Met bats were just absolutely dreadful from the fourth inning on. I mean, how many balls were even put in play? They were striking out over and over and over again. I didn't love Jesse Winker coming up to pinch hit. I was not in love with this. Jose Iglesias has been a machine as a New York Met. He is Mr. OMG, and we even saw this on Sunday when he got on base 4 times, but he got on base in the bottom of the 9th inning. He hits a ground ball to shortstop. He's a threat to beat it out. He's a threat for that to be an infield single. So when you go to Jesse Winker, what are you thinking about? You're thinking about the home run? Something Jesse Winker doesn't do here in New York, apparently. Today was the day I got pissed at Jesse Winker. He has not been great since the Mets acquired him. I still have faith that he can turn it around. I'm still glad he's not on the Washington Nationals, so the Mets don't have to deal with him. I'm glad he's not on some other team that traded for him where he could stick it to the Mets again. But I didn't think it was necessary to go send Jesse Winker up to pinch hit for Jose Iglesias, who's been so productive getting on base. And he's given you such great at-bats late in games. Think back to the game in Pittsburgh last month when he had that ridiculous game-saving, game-extending at-bat against the Aroldis Chapman. So I didn't love that move. And we saw that Andy was going to empty his bench because he was also going to have Jeff McNeil pinch hit for Tyrone Taylor. And what I wondered about was after that was Harrison Bader. If you're going to have Jeff McNeil pinch hit, at this point, just because of the way Taylor's hit recently, wouldn't you have McNeil pinch hit for Bader and not Taylor, which leads me to wonder, was Brandon Nimmo available to pinch hit, and was he going to pinch hit for Harrison Bader if that spot came up in the bottom of the 9th inning, which would have been a great turn of events considering things did not look great for Nimmo on Sunday. And they obviously got good news on Monday. The MRI came back clean. He was on the bench. Again, not specifically sure if he was available or not. So it's definitely a good sign that Brandon Nimmo's not going to miss an extended period of time. It doesn't look like he's going to go on the injured list. It looks like he may even be available for tonight's game, depending on when you're listening, the Tuesday night game against the Orioles. I am flying home. I'm on the Whitestone Bridge, which has this great view to the left of New York City. I try not to get too distracted when I'm driving, but we live, because I am so sick of people ripping my city, for whatever reason. Oh, it's violence, it's got this, it's got that. I ain't saying it's perfect. I'm not saying that stuff doesn't exist. What I'm saying is I love this effing city. This is the best city in the world. It is so beautiful, especially when you're driving over the Whitestone and you glance to your left and you see the Empire State Building shining. I love this beautiful city. It's not perfect. I'm not telling you it's perfect, but it's the best we got in this world we call planet Earth. Anyhow, I digress. Francisco Alvarez needed that shit, man. I'll tell you, for a guy that has been slumping for months, and remember how Alvarez's season has gone. He got off to a great start. He cooled off. The Mets were in the midst of a hot streak. He gets hurt in Los Angeles. He's gone. The Mets go through major struggles without him. He comes back. The Mets are getting very, very hot to the point where Alvarez has the OG Anunoby thing working, where when he plays, the Mets have a great record. Alvarez then cools off, and he's been cool for, I got to look at game logs, but it seems like it's basically been since he's gotten back, but really over the last month and a half. He hasn't hit for a lot of power. His batting average has been sinking. It seems like he's stuck on the same RBI total. His OPS has been dipping all the way down where it's approaching the sixes. I don't think it's gotten to the sixes, but it's getting very, very close. Francisco Alvarez is a big part of this team, big part of the future, big part of this lineup right now. And they need to get him going. This Met lineup, which has to be the catalyst for them, hasn't had a red-hot Pete Alonso. They've had a hot Pete Alonso, but not a red-hot Pete Alonso. This is a lineup that just dealt with, a month of Brandon Nimmo falling on his ass, dealt with a first half of Jeff McNeil not looking like a major league player. They've dealt with a lot of pitfalls over the course of this season. Obviously, Lindor's been utterly brilliant for the most part. They could really use a hot streak from Francisco Alvarez, And we've seen that from him. Like, one of the track records of Francisco Alvarez in the time he's been in the major leagues for whatever it's been now, almost 2 years, a year and a half. When he gets hot, he is like, you can't get him out. By the way, I'm sitting in traffic right now. We call that the surprise traffic as I get on the hutch. I guess they're doing a little road work, little construction road work at 10 o'clock at night on a Monday night. Whatever. They need to get Alvarez hot. It would add such a different dimension to this batting order, to this lineup. And you hope that a moment like this, and it is a special moment, you could certainly see it with him pimping out the home run the way he did, which I loved. I have no issue with that. That maybe this kind of moment, this magical moment, a game-winning walk-off home run against a former first-place team in the Baltimore Orioles could be that really gets his confidence back, gets his swagger back, and gets him going. Because they could certainly use him. But that was great, and it really came out of nowhere. You know, unfortunately, the Met bats were so bad over the last 5 innings of this game that it just didn't feel like they were scoring another run. You know, it felt after they gave up the lead and Urias at the home run that this was going to be a typical slow death kind of game where you're just waiting for how the Orioles are going to take the lead and how the Mets are going to fail to get the tying run home in the 10th or 11th inning. That's the way it felt. Now, luckily, the Mets turn it. They get a great effort from the top end of their bullpen, and they get a clutch hit from Francisco Alvarez. Can they win this series? We shall see. Can they win both of these games and make it the 6-3 homestand we dreamt about? We shall see. But big victory, great feeling. I'm losing my voice. I had a nice night tonight. Went to the Met game with an auction winner. Won a charity auction. And so me and him and his friend hung out. They were good luck charms. They may have to come back now. That's the beauty of when you win a charity auction and go to a Met game with me. Mets win dramatically. I may just bring you back on my own. On the arm, baby. We will get into the raising of certain season ticket prices later this week on the Rico Brogna. We'll obviously look back at the series against the Orioles and preview what's up ahead, the very difficult 7-game stretch before they go to Chicago, where the Mets take on the Padres and the Diamondbacks. But we do appreciate you listening, downloading, watching, and subscribing. A walk-off drive-home edition of Rico Brogna.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Rico Brogna podcast. It's amazing, isn't it? Make sure you download it now to keep it on you at all times.